Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Aquarius for July 2015. Go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, or click on the link below this video to see more about my personal live coaching, also to see more about my 28-day virtual coaching program called Shine, which is intended to help you navigate the rocky waters of the starry experiences in the most graceful and productive and fulfilling ways. And it's also available on a sliding scale, so check that out. While you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. So what is going on in this wild roller coaster of a ride of July? We start out the beginning of the month with the same sweetness that was the tone of the second half of June. It's wonderful, soft, gentle, inspirational, creative energy. We do have a full moon right at the beginning there, which of course does bring drama sometimes, or does bring fullness or completion. July 1st is the first of 2 full moons we have this month, which is very, very powerful. So even though there is this building up, there is this energetic shaking off, there is this coming to completion or fulfillment, which sometimes is associated with emotional upsets or drama, the chances of this full moon being very positive are increased because we are having a sweet aspect to Neptune. So Neptune is positively affecting the sun, Neptune is positively affecting the moon, and this full moon is in Capricorn. So some of you earlier degree Aquarius placements are going to have this full moon happen in your 12th house. The rest of you, some of you middle degree placements will have it there also. The rest of you middle and later degree Aquarius placements are going to experience this in your 11th house. When we have a full moon in our 12th house, this can add to the potential emotional increases because the 12th house is one of our water houses, it's one of our psychological houses. So even though the transit itself is in an earth sign, very stable, the 12th house is this house of like the attic. You know, it's our unconscious mind where we put a lot of things and we don't know what's there, and when things come to fullness in the stars, it tends to show us what's there. So a lot of fears can come up, a lot of, darkness can come up, but the chance for positive resolution or positive outcomes from this darkness is increased because of the sweet aspects that are occurring with Neptune. So I'm calling this month a day to be in your studio, whether you're an artist or not, whatever your studio looks like for you, whether it's a figurative studio, but the place where you can express all of the magic and inspiration that is unique to your personal imprint. And I say this is a good idea for the whole month because there's amazing aspects, a lot of them involving Neptune, but some other aspects that really give you the potential to have amazing creative outputs. And then there's some dicey, stressful, chaotic energies that if you're in the studio, whatever that is for you, then maybe you're not out making mischief or being part of the mischief of these transits. And you can put that uncomfortable energy towards something, creating something coherent and beautiful. And that is the mission. So at the same time as having this full moon with sweet aspects to Neptune, we're still feeling that energy of the trine from Uranus and Jupiter, which is a longer term transit. So it's just kind of encompassing this longer period of time. Some of the aspects, you'll only feel them over several days. Aspects like this Uranus and Jupiter trine that was exact at the end of June, you're feeling this energy lingering still. It was before the actual transit, which was around the 23rd of June, and it's going to be lingering afterwards. So any of the aspects that I talk about with Uranus and Jupiter this month that are favorable, they're involving this trine kind of still being intact, and that's very positive. So on the same day, July 1st, this is an astrological power day, we have Venus making a conjunction to Jupiter. And for most of you Aquarius placements, all you early and most middle, you have this Venus, ruler of love, beauty, and money, with Jupiter, this expander, positive growth, flowing awesomeness and opportunities, making a conjunction together, expanding all the potentials of both of them. You have that happening in your relationship sector. Romantic relationships, business relationships, client relationships, personal relationships of every kind have an awesome boost at this time. The rest of you who don't have this officially happening in your 7th house, you have this happening in your house of health, of daily work, of meditation, of nutrition, of diet. So, but it will still have a very strong chance of affecting any and all of your relationships in a positive way because Venus rules the 7th house. So it's still, you've got this link here regardless of whatever house you're feeling this in. So that's super positive. And then from July 2nd through July 5th, we have Mercury, which is sandwiched in a beautiful angle between this Jupiter-Venus conjunction and this Uranus placement. So Uranus and Jupiter are making this lovely angle, and then Mercury is coming like kind of right in the middle there, making a beautiful angle to both. And Mercury rules communication, it rules expression, it rules mobility, and it's sitting there right in the 5th house, which is ruled by Leo, which Venus is in that sign, right? So there's all these links with the 12th house, with the 7th house, with the 5th house for Aquarius this month. And this 5th house rules creativity of any kind. So again, you can see why we want to be in the studio. This also rules children and interactions with children, whether they're our own or others, and it rules babies in general. So a lot of people who have kids still have other creative projects that are like babies. Some people who don't have children or are not involved in children, they're highly creative. Those are their babies. So your babies are getting lots of beautiful, expanding vibes at the beginning of the month here. So that is supremely positive overall. And then we start the mischief around July 6th, and every time I give you a date, just always please remember that you can feel and likely will feel these energies before the exact date or after the exact date. The exact date is just a guideline and not the only day that you can experience them. So the mischief starts with this opposition of the Sun to Pluto. When the Sun rules our vitality, it rules the 5th house, and of all these creative things that we're talking about, and it rules our expression and in many ways our identity, how we see ourselves. And then we've got Pluto, the great transformer, the atomic bomb, the bringer of birth, death, rebirth, transformation, figuratively and literally, coming in this obnoxious angle of an opposition. An opposition is a really powerful angle, and it can be positive, of course. Sometimes I call it obnoxious because it can be obnoxious, but an opposition, 180-degree angle, is a very rich, complex angle. It pushes, it pulls, it has synastry, it has antagonism, it has all things. It's very rich. But in any case, it's like two dogs pulling on the end of one of those like chew toy things and just like pulling. You know, that's what it looks like. And and you're in the center of that. Like maybe you're the chew toy, right? But that's what an opposition is like, is you're being pulled in these different directions. And it can be really challenging. So especially if something is, an opposition is involving Pluto, it's just we don't know what's going to happen here. So many of you will be experiencing this in your 12th and 6th houses, which are the houses of your health and mental health and your physical health. The 12th house is more your mental health. The 6th house is more your physical health, but you can't really separate them, and that's part of this dynamic between them. So health crisis or health opportunity or health something can be coming up at this time. And there's a couple of pieces like that throughout the month of like guarding your health, watching your health, something coming up with the health. If you know that you have stress mentally or stress on your body physically, you want to try to soften some of that before this aspect. That's part of why I work really hard to get these videos out as early as possible, usually around a month ahead of time, so that if you're paying attention, you're subscribed, you're watching, you can make your plans so that you can prepare for that time. So similar, how I describe this is, if you have, like, it makes me think of my mom when we go to visit. You know, I have small children and dogs, and they wear heavy on a place. So if you're not prepared for that, they can really tear up some things, you know, even if you're watching them, you know, they're just doing the things that they do. So she doesn't worry about it. She just puts out the bath mats that are the ones when we come, so we can, you know, get stuff all over them, as the kids always do, and, you know, put away the breakables so that the experience, so that she doesn't miss out on the experience of having us there, worrying about what we're doing to her house. So this is like the example of, if you know that there's going to be stress starting from around, you know, the 6th into the 8th, getting stronger after that, then if you relax before then, if you support your body and mind before then, if you work out some things before then it helps you to have a softer, better experience when the stresses are actually happening. Similar to how if you go on a vacation and then you come back to daily stresses at work, you're like, oh, I can kind of let that slide. I'm relaxed still. It's like that. So I'm just telling you ahead of time, there's going to be awkwardness, there's going to be stress in those times. So prepare yourself beforehand as well as you can. So then on the 8th and the 13th, we have Mars and then Mercury making a favorable angle to Neptune. This is one of the ones I referred to earlier when I said we have some sweet aspects, especially involving Neptune. This is just ruling this romantic and idealistic and poetic and intuitive and sweet and soft and artistic energy. So when you have Mercury that rules expression and Mars that rules action and how you use your energy in this sweet aspect with Neptune, it just lends itself to this positive potential involving anything creative. Now, right in between there, on July 12th, we have another one of these challenging aspects. They're kind of brewing for this like culmination right here in the middle of the month. The Sun in Cancer is making a square to Uranus. And Uranus is the planet of surprises. We've been talking extensively about Uranus in previous months because we had some really obnoxious angles and energy with Uranus, starting with the eclipses. Then last month we had some really beautiful energies of Uranus that are carrying over into this month. But this particular aspect is awkward. It's challenging. It brings surprise attacks on your identity. It can be naysaying. Someone could be critical. It could be something physically flying at your head. Uranus in Aries. Aries rules the head. It's awkward and it's uncomfortable and it's surprises that aren't as happy. So July 13th, we have Venus squaring Saturn. So Venus, for most of you, is going to be in the 7th house when this happens. And the 10th, and most of you will have Saturn in the 10th house. So there's some kind of link between something at work or an authority figure. Or, Saturn always represents this kind of I always see it like an older, frowning, stern type of a person who happens to also have a lot of money and wisdom. And, he bestows it when he has nice angles happening with other planets. But this isn't one of those. So you have this Venus in your house of relationships or in your house of health or workday affairs or involving pets or something with your daily routine or nutrition or diet. You have this stern taskmaster making an unfavorable angle. So there's criticism, there's antagonism, there's a wake-up call, there's the dose of realism. I always look for what is the positive energy behind these challenging placements. I don't want to for myself and I don't want to for you to walk around being worried about the next difficult transit and then just thinking about, what's going to happen. We have to use them for the positive potentials that they are and strengthen our inner self physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, structurally, on every level. The stronger we are, then when these planets and in their crazy aspects come and test weak links, we don't have as many weak links because we're focusing on strengthening them. And then it's easier for you to go through smoothly. Now, of course, death and destruction and despair and challenges are always going to happen on the earth plane, at least at this point. But it minimizes the drama and it changes how we experience the things that are happening to us. So then we have on July 15th, a new moon in Cancer. So usually this would be a time of, yay, it's a new moon, it's opening up energies. And that is also true. It's happening at the same time as all of these other things. But the new moon in Cancer, for some of you, would be opening up new diet, new health regimen, new something involving pets or animals, new meditation routine, new client for your self-employed people, new organization for your systems, having better systems. Some of you are going to have this new moon energy in your 5th house, which is romance and creativity and hobbies and fun and kids. So that's happening at the same time as we have tons of baggage. The new moon carries tons of baggage. We've already talked about some of them. This really big, potentially dangerous and volatile aspect is Mercury and Mars conjunct. That's not the challenging part. Those are opposing Pluto. So we talked about the Sun coming and opposing Pluto. Now we have Mercury and Mars moving along, and they come and oppose Pluto. And Mars opposing Pluto is where a lot of the danger can come. And Mercury as well, because Mercury rules how we move our bodies, how we communicate, how we express ourselves. So when you have this great radioactive transformer making this crazy, challenging angle to how we express, how we move, Mars, how we use our energy, things can get physical very quickly. So verbal things that get heated can turn into physical. People are driving around with road rage. They're running red lights, you know. If you're a person that rides your bike while you're texting, I think it's a good idea to not do that anyway, but this is a period of time where you really want to watch yourself. Walking while texting, crossing the street, I see people doing this and I'm like, don't do that, you know, but especially at this time, it can wait. It can wait. Sit on a park bench, sit on the ground somewhere. Just pay attention to what's happening around you, not only as a life practice, but especially when these energies are flaring up so much, because things can get crazy and you want to be defensive at this time. You know, you want to be really just looking around for how this energy is manifesting and protecting yourself. So then we have Mercury coming and making this square to Uranus. Earlier we had the Sun do this. Now we have Mercury on July 18th making this square to Uranus. So again, these are surprises. These are things that come out of the blue. You know, like you're walking along and a stove falls on you from a 7-story whatever. I mean, it's unlikely that that's going to happen, but it's like that. You're moving your body. Uranus drops something out of the blue, you know, and so it's not as favorable an energy. It's something not nice out of the blue kind of thing. So now after all of that awkwardness, we do have a sweet patch here around the 21st to the 23rd of July. And this is when the Sun and Mercury are conjunct. And this is a very powerful time because the Sun rules our vitality and Mercury rules our expression. And it's a nice energy. And both of these planets are making this trine, which is a super favorable, super coherent angle to Saturn. So we talked about Saturn before, what he's like. And when we have an unfavorable angle, his stern, authoritative taskmaster side comes out more. But when we have him in a nice angle, it's when you use the realism and practicality that comes along with him, you can have wonderful expansion. It's like you're rewarded for a job well done kind of energy instead of being scolded for not doing well enough. That's kind of more how it is in a challenging angle. In a nice angle, it's like you get your pat on the head or whatever it is that you're after, and it's something that sustains you for a while. So July 25th, we have Venus going in retrograde. I have been talking about this coming. Hopefully you've been listening so you could be preparing for this time, because again, it's good to know what's happening while it's going on, but it's even better to know what's going to happen beforehand so you can make your plans and arrangements and know beforehand what are the better things to do, what are the better things to not do. We're more familiar with Mercury being in retrograde than we are with Venus being in retrograde, because Mercury is retrograde 3 to 4 times a year for like this. It's only several weeks that it's actually retrograde, but the retrograde cycle spans about 9 weeks. So when Venus is in retrograde, it happens once around every year and a half. And there's a shadow period a little longer before and a little longer afterwards. So if you've been listening to my reports, then you know that Venus retrograde shadow period started June 22nd. And so it officially goes retrograde July 25th. It goes direct September 8th, and it's not till like close to the last days of September that the shadow period ends. So from the end of June through the end of September, we have full on and growing towards, you know, the July 25th and September 8th times, Venus in retrograde. Venus rules love, beauty, money, design, aesthetics. So it's not the best time for certain things. Like, let's say some of these beautiful aspects that we've had brought someone new into your life and you're excited and things are going well and you have a lot of really strong potential around that because of this energy in your 7th house. Don't move in with them between July 25th and September 8th. And if you can help it, like once these aspects get gnarly, you know, like not after July 4th or 5th or something, don't move in with them. Try to not get engaged, you know, don't get married, things like that. You don't see things clearly involving love and beauty and money when Venus is in retrograde. And then when it goes direct, you're like, whoo, what was I thinking? It's like you're waking up, you know, from whatever is going on. If you did plan your wedding from July 25th through September 8th. I highly recommend you go sometime in the second half of June or the first couple of days of July and get your official legal married thing done. Go to Vegas, go to a preacher or whoever. Get it done. You don't need to tell anybody if you already have like all this money in the wedding. Go have your official date be in the nice energy, and then go have your ceremony and make as if nothing happened so that you don't stress about what do I do about this date. Just don't give people things with that date on it if you can help it. And I don't know, there's different ways you can work around it, but you want to make your official marriage date in the better energy time rather than Venus retrograde. Now, there are a few caveats to this. If you have superseding transits that are so crazy lighting up in your joint charts, it's possible that they could supersede what I'm saying right now, but that's not the majority of the time. So the same thing with business ventures. We're not seeing clearly involving some business ventures during this time, but it is, however, a fantastic time to pick up things at a really good bargain. So you don't want to drop a lot of money on luxury items. If you are getting a bargain on something and you know it's a bargain on something and you're like, oh gosh, that's such a good deal, it's okay to buy those things. If you're not going to be missing the money and wishing you hadn't spent the money because it was such a big amount of money, and then when you decide you don't like it when Venus goes direct and you're like, what am I going to do, right? But it's an amazing time to pick up really good deals, which of course makes it a really bad time for you to decide to sell something of value because you're not seeing clearly. But for the people who are going out capitalizing on the fact that people aren't seeing clearly, you're going to pick up quite a few bargains because people are like, I'm just going to get rid of this. Maybe they don't know the value. Maybe they don't care or they're desperate. Try to avoid selling expensive things during the Venus retrograde cycle. You're not going to get as much money for them and you might wish you hadn't done it. Let's see what else. So Venus, I'm calling this Venus retrograde in Leo, even though it officially starts out in Virgo, but it's only 0 degrees at Virgo and the rest of the time is in Venus in Leo. So most of you are going to experience this transit in your house of relationships. So everyone is going to be rethinking, reconsidering their relationships. Many people will feel unheard, uncared for, unnoticed, frustrated in relationships when Venus is in retrograde as a global experience, but especially when it's in your 7th house, which for most of you is going to, well, for all of you, it's going to be there at least part of the time, and for some of you, it'll be there all of the time. So this adds an additional dimension of this for you. If you can help it, don't make a decision about leaving your relationship while Venus is retrograde. Reconsider, think about it, and then wait until the energy is direct, which is after September 8th, because you're going to have quite a lot of awarenesses and they might conflict with one another. So you might make the decision one day, that's it, I'm leaving my relationship. And then the next day you're like, oh gosh, I'm so grateful for this relationship, I want to be in it. So you don't want to make any decisions when Venus is in retrograde, but it's a fantastic time to go into counseling for yourself or with your partner. Amazing time. You can get so much done. And it's really good to proactively plan some sessions or plan anything that will help you each deal with your own issues that are causing your relationship issues. So then on July 26th, we have Uranus going retrograde in Aries. And this is a time where we really question what is freedom to us. And some of this Uranus and Aries retrograde time is going to coincide with Venus in retrograde. So they kind of go hand in hand. Why do I not feel free in my relationships? What is not free about them? How can I create more freedom in my relationships? Hence the counseling. How can you do that together? So a lot of people are going to be asking these questions about the topic of freedom. July 31st, we have the second full moon, and this is in Aquarius. So some of you are going to experience this second full moon at the very end of the month in your 1st house. The rest of you are going to experience this second full moon in your 12th house. So sometime this month, every one of you is going to have a full moon in the 12th house, whether it's at the beginning for you earlier placements, or if it's at the end for you later placements. It's going to happen. And what we talked about with that, like fullness coming to something in your mind, it can be a time when fears come up. It can be a time when old concerns come up. Just try to prepare for the time by being proactive with the things that you're worried about. And then, create a supportive space around you. People often feel the energy of the full moon several days before. I always do 2 to 3 days before. I'm up all night, I can't sleep. And you might notice that you feel this energy a couple of days beforehand. So just leave some space in your schedule to deal with whatever comes up. So those are the main things I wanted to talk about. If you need some assistance with navigating these energies, there's always so many different energies happening in your personal chart than I can talk about because I don't know what your personal chart looks like. I'd love to help you. So go to my website, aspiritualspark.com. And while you're there, definitely sign up for my free email newsletter. I do a monthly write-up for the upcoming month that gives you some details in a written, coherent fashion of the dates of certain transits so that you can make your plans and have a heads up and have a written version of it. And that goes out to my community, which is when you join my email newsletter. So do that, and definitely check out my 28-day virtual coaching program called Shine. It is a series of podcasts and videos that have exercises and information that help you to clear up the things that are causing you to have responses when these challenging transits occur. I've been blessed to work with people of every age in every different country imaginable. So blessed. And I've gotten to see humans are the same in many ways. And the places where we are the same questions, the same problems, the same things that are coming up, the same patterns. My Shine program is geared around helping you to clear those out so that you can have an easier, more wonderful life experience. So check it out. It's available on a sliding scale. And I hope you have a wonderful month. Bye.